She's calling your name through the wind. Come back home to Africa, the fatted calf and golden rain. Greetings, greetings. Come on in. Come on in this Wednesday, February 16th, 2022. All is a blessing. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in. Greetings and salutations. I'm longing for my body, coming back to you every time. Come back home to Africa. She's calling your name to win. Come back home to Africa. The flag is calf. Greetings, Chef Bougie. Beloved Arisha, come on in, come on in. Greetings and salutations, Martha Martinez. Tasha Harris, Tasha loves you. Greetings and salutations, come on in. Shamafia Rothschild. Greetings and salutations. It's Wednesday, February 16th, 2022. Come on in this noon, U.S. Central Standard Time. blogtalkradio.com/the-divine-prince at area code 845-277-9143, 845-277-9143. Welcome, welcome each and every one. Come on in. The fire is a hot, the water is a boiling. It's time to put another one in the pot. Yes, indeed. Come on in, come on in. Welcome, welcome. Greetings, greetings. Come on in this Wednesday, February 16th, 2022. Welcome, welcome. Come back home to Africa. Come back home. 845-277-9143. Area code toll free 845-277-9143. All is truly and indeed a blessing. Eshu Elegwana Kosi Were Awo Onlo Uto Ni Iwo Ada Afanbo Osi O Batalami Itani Ebo Onilio Abane Shu. Eshu is the respected elder who flogs, confronts, and uncovers fools. That one verse in Mysteries uses truth to own you. He causes scatter to feed poverty. Obatala shakes rascals to have sacrifice. The owner of warnings is the one who is Eshu. Aboru, Aboye, Abushishe, Ashe. May our Ebo reach Orun. May our Ebo be accepted. May our Ebo allow what we desire to come to pass. And so we say, Ashe and Asheo. Divine, all blessed greetings and salutations. You are now sitting live with the Divine Prince and always in archive at your leisure and convenience. The Pan-African Spiritualist, Practitioner, Author, and Advisor, Elogun Ogoye Hoodoo Obeya Bokur. Sharing with you in all things spiritual, mystical, metaphysical, cosmic, universal, evolutionary, revolutionary, healing, and holistic from a Pan-African Hoodoo, world spiritualist perspective. Understanding that all is truly and indeed a blessing if you can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test in one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. This is my constant personal prayer, my mantra, my affirmation, reverberation, and reiteration, and it is my ever living reality. All is a blessing is crucial to the very foundation of my inner standing, my teaching, my walk, my works along this divine, all blessed life path and journey. And it is how I, the Divine Prince, Ty Emeka, make sense out of all that we are challenged with here in our daily existence on Mother, Father, Earth. It is my personal place of power and understanding, the place from where I begin, the place from where I realize and crystallize all my endeavors, understanding that I and I alone create and co create my divine destiny, and I alone create and co create my divine, all blessed reality. And so it is. Ashe, ashe, oh, ashe. And because it is, I am ever increasing moment by moment, day by day, my ability to create and recreate my own reality, a reality that mirrors my best interests. On this beloved Wednesday, February 16th, 2022, and I am emanating and vibrating with you and for you now, live, virtually, verbally, cosmically, quantum universally from this working temple of the house of the Divine Prince. Thai potions, Hoodoo Central, and during carnival season, this becomes Black Hawk Voodoo Central. In this legendary, historic, beautiful, and most enchanted city in America, New Orleans, Louisiana. Go digger, baby dolls. In this land of my ancestors and those who came before me along this Hoodoo Obeah life path and journey, passing down the great Obeah stick along with the knowledge of the life-giving herbs, roots, plants, rituals, spirits, minerals, and indeed the legacy, culture, and traditions, the history of our sacred stories, our sacred stories. Please do stop and like, follow, subscribe on all platforms that you might be visiting. And most certainly, youtube.com/VOODOOTYE. My hat's off to YouTube. And also at blogtalkradio.com/the hyphen divine hyphen prince. I know some of y'all call that hyphen a dash, but it's indeed a hyphen. Okay. And I certainly appreciate you all stopping to like, follow, subscribe on all platforms. And please share with a friend, share with a frenemy, share with the ignorant, share with the wise. But by all means, please share, for indeed all is a blessing. And so I pause and I breathe. And before we move forward, understanding that the creation of sacred space is critical to all that we do, all we are, who we are, where we be at any given moment in this present time space. Understanding that we create and recreate our own reality. It's not dictated by the weather. It's not dictated by people, places, or things, or events, usually temporal events, but certainly by that which we create and recreate within our hearts, within our consciousness, within our minds, within our third eye, within our creative spaces of our minds, and then of course that which we project from our mouths. Remembering that just because you don't say it doesn't mean that energy does not escape the confines of your skull. For indeed, once you think it, you're already vibrating it. You're already saying it. You're already speaking it into the universe. And I think that's why the magical book makes a reference about a man having sinned with a woman with his eyes without necessarily having touched her. And I know there are women under the sound of my voice right now, men under the sound of my voice right now, who thoroughly understand the dynamics of that math. And so we create sacred space within our minds, our hearts, our spirits, not creating anything that we don't wish to exist within our universe, not wanting to create and recreate that which we do not wish to exist in our reality. So I wake up in the morning, I get up during the day, I stop and think it to myself, I stop and say it out loud that I am. I am because my creators are. And if you haven't heard it today, if you haven't heard it lately, if you haven't heard it before, the Black woman is God. The Black woman is God. The Black woman is God. Therefore, I am born God, just as I am born human, just as we are born animal and mammal in nature, but divine in our spirit, divine in our origins, understanding that our origins escape the physical laws of materiality, of the material realm, of the physical realm, of the earth realm. And so I am because my creators are all powerful, open, and receptive to all that operates for my good here and now in this most present moment in time space. I create and recreate the reality that mirrors my best interest. I am releasing and letting go of those things which impede my progress. The fire that dwells within consumes all but the truth. So indeed, I am humble. I am grateful. I am blessed. I walk in the anointing. We never lost our connection to spirit, to the anointing, to the ancestors, to indeed the creator itself. And spiritual knowledge and power, as I say and remind you each and every day, lies in its efficacy, its ability to produce and manifest powerful, reliable, tangible, lasting manifestation and results right here and now in this moment in time space. All else is vanity, all else is ego, all else is an illusion. And I am indeed humbled and honored by each and every one present with me today, all those I've already acknowledged, those I may have missed. Greetings, the Infinite One. I love when my local New Orleanians come through and give some love and support. I certainly appreciate you. Lateria Daniel, peace and blessings to you and yours as well, beloved. Thank you so much to all who show up and show out each and every day, no matter what time of day it is in your time zone. Greetings, Gene Williams. Thank you so much. And we certainly appreciate our international audience, the UK, the US, of course, and Canada, Hong Kong, who suddenly has taken just a great interest in our show. And I've been getting Hong Kong listeners daily to the podcast, to the broadcast. So we certainly do appreciate them. We certainly appreciate Ghana and Nigeria and Morocco, and who else is on my page today? Algeria, Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda, Kenya, Zambia, South Africa, Brazil, Argentina. Hello to my house in Brazil, beloved. Greetings and salutations. Carlos Ariel, peace and love to you as well, beloved. And send my love and support to the priestess. Venezuela, we certainly appreciate you. Australia, the UK, London, Paris. We just certainly are grateful for those who tune in, no matter what the issue, no matter what the weather, no matter what the technological glitch might be. We certainly appreciate you. Thank you, Santeria, for stopping by. We certainly appreciate you and yours. Alexis Williams, greetings and salutations. Jules, we certainly appreciate you for coming through. And it's always an honor to be in your light, in your presence, in your energy, in your wisdom. Jules Birch is hailing from Wales. Thank you so much for coming through. We have a few people. Craig Burns is from the UK as well. So we certainly appreciate all of my regular support and participants. I want to talk about something today I probably have never talked about before. And even now in the moment, I'm really stretching my mind, going all the way back to 2005 Hurricane Katrina. I don't think we've ever talked about this, even briefly in the chat. But there's a popular trending thing that's happening among us right now. And some of you are aware of it, and some of you are going to find out about it today. And that is the idea, whether it be a physical manifestation for the individual or indeed a spiritual manifestation for the individual. And that is Therian spirits, animal ancestors, and Therian spirits. It's very hard to research this topic and not come across a wealth of information as it relates to animal ancestors among all Aboriginal and indigenous peoples. The truth often remains embedded in myths and legends and stories, but indeed there are scientific, archaeological, evolutionary basis for why our ancestors, our Aboriginal and indigenous ancestors, began to formulate a relationship with nature beyond just, what we eat and spirit and healing, but and nature in its weather, rain, heat, electricity. But certainly it began to also leave footprints of a much deeper interaction. Humans having communication with birds, with reptiles, and certainly humans taking on animal forms. Now let me be clear. We might briefly nudge a subject about, vampires, werewolves, the like, but that's really not what I'm talking about today. We've done shows, certainly in recent time, about archaeology and the development of humans from the hominids to present day humans. And so the human evolution, the process by which human beings developed on Earth, from now extinct primates and other forms of hominids to who we are today, demonstrates a footprint of evolution, of change, in some cases of transformation and metamorphosis that was very conscious in the minds of our ancestors and has only taken on theatrical and cinematic and entertainment-based demonstrations today. Viewed zoologically, we humans are Homo sapiens. We are mammals, a culture-bearing, upright, walking species that lives on the ground and very likely first evolved in Mother Africa about 315,000 years ago. We are now the only living members of what many zoologists refer to as the human tribe. hominini, or is it hominini? Hominini. But there is an abundant fossil evidence to indicate that we were preceded by millions of years of other hominins, such as, now the spellings and the pronunciations, y'all, gonna be a little complex. Ardipithecus, Ardipithecus, and Australopithecus, Australopithecus, and other species of Homo, meaning men or humans, and that our species also lived for a time contemporaneously with at least one other member of our genus, most commonly known as the Neanderthals. In addition, we and our predecessors have always shared Earth with other ape-like primates, from the modern-day gorilla to the long extinct Dryopithecus, Dryopithecus, that we and that extinct hominins are somehow related, and that we and the apes, both living and extinct, are also somehow related, is accepted by anthropologists and biologists everywhere. Yet the exact nature of our evolutionary relationships have been the subject of debate and investigation since the great British naturalist Charles Darwin published his monumental books on the origin of species, 1859, and the descent of man, 1871. Darwin never claimed, as some of his Victorian contemporaries insisted he had, that man was descended from apes. Let's be clear about that. And modern scientists would view such a statement as a useless simplification, just as they would dismiss any popular notions that a certain extinct species is the quote unquote missing link between humans and the apes. There is theoretically, however, a common ancestor that existed millions of years ago. This ancestral species does not constitute a quote unquote missing link along a lineage, but rather a node of divergence into separate lineages. This ancient primate has not been identified and may never be known with certainty because fossil relationships are unclear even within the human lineage, which is more recent. In fact, the human family tree may be better described as a family bush, within which it is impossible to connect a full chronological series of species leading to Homo sapiens that experts can agree upon. In fact, I would suggest even that the quote unquote missing link is between the material and the spirit. It's between being Homo, being sapien, being Neanderthal, being whatever we are, wood, fire, water, and stone, but really is that link between physicalness and consciousness, or our very humanity and our divinity, our innate divinity. The primary resource for detailing the path of human evolution will always be fossil specimens, at least for now, until we know better and learn better and develop different science for identifying history through fossil remains and material remains of that which once was and once existed. And certainly the trove of fossils from Africa, Eurasia, indicates that unlike today, more than one species of our family have lived at the same time for most of human history. The nature of specific fossil specimens and species can be accurately described, as can the location where they're found and the period of time in which they live. But questions of how species lived and why they might have either died out or evolved into other species can only be addressed by formulating scenarios, albeit scientifically informed scenarios. These scenarios are based on contextual information gleaned from localities where the fossils were collected. In devising such scenarios and filling in the human family bush, researchers must consult a large and diverse array of fossils, and they must also employ refined excavation methods and records, geochemical dating techniques, and data from other specialized fields such as genetics, ecology, paleoecology, ethology, ethology, which is animal behavior, etholology, and in short, all the tools of the multidisciplinary science of paleoanthropology. And so we can look at evolution for some of the roots to the stories, to the legends, to the myths about animal ancestors and indeed human animal hybrids. We see even in the animal kingdom today that species are defined as groups of living organisms consisting of similar individuals capable of exchanging genes or interbreeding. However, a hybrid animal occurs when parents from two different but usually extremely closely related species are able to produce offspring. The hybrid offspring of two different species are typically infertile, so not able to reproduce, though there are a number of exceptions. With scientific intervention and certain breeding techniques, including artificial insemination, it is possible to create a breeding line of hybridized animals that are actually fertile. And I can remember from my days in the Nation of Islam hearing, stories about Yaqub and this ancient ancestor creating, a whole new ethnic group, whole new race of people in a laboratory. And so there are, indeed these whispers and these hints and these rumors on both sides of the line, the scientific, archaeological perspective, and then the cultural, spiritual nuances for really investigating further into animal ancestors and the idea of animal human hybrids that may well have existed in a time that predates documented, recorded, written, even carved history to some degree, even storytelling, if we accept the notion that, the world may have been, destroyed more than once, as told by the Hopis, as told by the Dogon, as told by many other ethnic groups around the world. When we think of a liger, a male tiger, and a female lion, a tigon, a male lion and a female tiger, a jag lion, male jaguar and a female lion. These seem, unique and unusual and maybe even freakish to some degree, but are real hybrids that have happened, that have occurred in the world. The leopard, a male leopard and a female lion, is a rare hybrid of a male leopard and a lioness that only has been produced in captivity. The leopard has stunning looks, much like a mythological beast, with the head of a lion and the body of a leopard. The first leopard was created in India in 1910, and over a century later, there are believed to be around 100 in the world. You have examples of domesticated cats then breeding with other forms of felines. The Savannah cat, which is a domestic cat, and a serval cat. You have a toiger, a Bengal cat mixed with a tabby cat. Toigers are a designer cat breed bred from Bengal and tabby cats to create a wild tiger look on a completely domesticated cat. So we have modern notions of manipulation. We have ancient notions of manipulation. And then we go into some of the mythologies that originate in the Aboriginal cultures around the world. And I'm going to focus primarily on Africa today. 10 mythical creatures in Africa and their legends. Maybe no content has, maybe no continent has more history of legendary myths, creatures, and devils than Africa, being the second largest continent in the world. There is the place where the human story started, all things considered, and it stays home to stories of monster reptiles, lost plesiosaurus, and snakes with the head of an elephant. Maybe not many of them may be as famous as the Greek Medusa and Oedipus, but they still do exist. And to set the record straight, we choose to feature African legends because this is a African podcast. This is an ATR podcast. And so if you were ever wondering what are the most popular African mythical creatures, I'm going to share some of them with you today. And the first is a Rompo, Rompo, a Rompo. A Rompo is a legendary monster with the head of a rabbit, arms like a badger, legs like a bear, and a skeletal middle and human ears. It is ravenous for human, fragile living creatures and sings a resonating tune to itself as it feasts. The legend of the Rompo is common in African countries, including South, Central, and Eastern African regions. The Grootslang, 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 a monster freshwater animal recorded in the mythology of the Zulu and the Hausa clans of South Africa. The Grootslang is believed to be among the very first animals created by God. It is an elephant snake hybrid with lots of intelligence, strength, craftiness, and additionally the habit of stealing jewels and valuable items. The name translation of Grootslang is awesome serpent. Awesome serpent. The next is Popo Bawa, Popobawa, Popo Bawa. Popo Bawa is a one-eyed bat-winged creature with the smell of sulfur. It is a polymorphic animal which takes on different shapes, people, animals, and even bat, as the name suggests. This is considered an evil mythological creature with a horrendous reputation of attacking male, female, and children and assaulting them both physically and sexually. Usually victims are encouraged to tell the story lest Popo Bawa comes back and assaults them once more and again. A next mythological creature goes back a little bit further in time. We go back to Kemet, ancient Egypt, and this deity is Ammit, Ammit, Ammit. Hardly any societies do fearsome gods like the antiquated Egyptians. The growling, snapping, meat-eating Ammit is one such grim animal from the season of the pharaohs, a female evil spirit that was part lion, part hippo, and crocodile. Amit would eat up the souls of the recent dead if they still carried on their bad habits into the next world. She is representation of celestial requital, karmic, universal karmic law, if you will, and the bearer of instant death to those who were found unbalanced on the scales of Mayat justice. Impandulu, I've talked about Impandulu on at least 3 or 4 occasions throughout the years on this podcast. The Impandulu is a vampire-like animal found in the Zulu, the Hausa, and other clans in South Africa, and it is reared by a witch who passes it on to her daughter. It is passed down matrilineally, if you will, through a family of witches, and it appears as a highly contrasting feathered creature, frequently as huge as a person, and is said to have forked lightning in its excrement and thunder in the flapping of its wings. It also has a huge appetite for blood and sex and feeds on both animals and humans. Another one, African mythological creature I've talked about a few times over the years is Abada. The Abada is an animal that looks somewhat like the legendary unicorn promoted in different types of Western old stories. Instead of the notable single horn of the unicorn, the Abada has 2 horns on its head. Like the unicorn, in any case, the sharp prongs of the Abada are accepted to contain cures for illnesses and counteractions to harms and poisons and bad magic. The Abada legend principally hails from what is current Democratic Republic of Congo. However, reports of comparative animals go down from age to age have likewise been recorded in any semblance of North and South Sudan also. You also have some similar Abada-like mythological creatures in some other regions, but they often take on completely different names and representations. And if I have the opportunity, I'll cover that to the best of my ability. The Abada legend principally hails from the Democratic Republic of Congo, but when we think about the size of the Congo, and then of course its movement, its mobility, voluntary and involuntary movements in that region, we certainly see Abada showing up, not just in the North and South Sudan, but in other coast regions around the DRC. The next mythological being is the Inkanramba, Inkanyamba, Inkanyamba, a mammoth serpent-like animal, and the leader of a stallion of other animals, and in some different portrayals, a zebra. Inkanyamba is said to live in the profound pools underneath Howick Falls in the north and of South Africa. The Zulu clan of the encompassing district once trusted the Inkanyambas. Outrage was the reason for regular brutal tempests, regular brutal storms. We see a similar reference in, I believe the movie was Stargate, and Inkanyamba, this mammoth serpent-like animal, came up out of the sand I believe it was, and made war with the people. Some of you remember that in the movie Stargate. It was something that they rarely saw but had a great fear of. And so this mythological creature is believed to create, dust storms, sandstorms, uh, other forms of tempests, even locust tempests. The individuals who woke it from its sleep welcomed its rage as tornadoes, uh, subterranean rains, and surges, and would would imply it. It is said that they would utilize it, employ it against their enemies and against enemy tribes and enemy ethnic groups, if you will, and that the serpent-like animal got out of the control of humanity. The next is the Ninki Nanka, Ninka, Ninki Nanka. Is said to be a mammoth bog abiding animal found in West African nations, for example, Senegal and Gambia. Portrayals change from town to town and clan to clan, yet most concur that it is a sort of a reptile. Some say it is comparable in appearance to a crocodile, while others believe it is similar to a mythological beast with intelligent scales and the capacity to spit fire. Legend has it that few who see the Inki Nanka live to tell the story. A great many people who see it will bite the dust inside half a month if the creature hasn't just dragged them off into the marsh when it is spotted. We have similar legends in, we don't call them bogs, we call them the bayou here in Louisiana, of, monstrous mythological creatures that are said to inhabit the swamp region. Loup-garou is probably the most notable, most well known of those creatures, mythological creatures that are said to exist in the swamps and beneath the bogs of the Louisiana coastal region. Another deity that I've posted on Instagram a few times over the years, a bit of a mermaid-like figure, Jangu, Jengu, Jengu, Jengu or Jangu the mermaid. The Jengu's appearance differs from people to people, but it is said to be beautiful, mermaid-like figures with long hair and gap-toothed smiles. A Jingu, and in plural, Mengu, is a water spirit in the traditional beliefs of the Sawa ethnic groups of Cameroon. They live in rivers and the sea and bring good fortune to worshippers. They are also helpers and intermediaries between people and the spirits. A Jingu cult has long enjoyed popularity in Cameroon. For the inland Bakweri, Bakweri, the Bakweri people, Jingu worship is a rite of passage for 8 to 10-year-old girls. During this time, the girl must wear a dress made of fern fronds and observe a series of taboos. After this period, she is a full member of the cult. There are many mermaid creatures in mythology across the continent of Africa. This lovely mermaid looking creature with fleecy hair and a whole tooth grin or gap tooth grin lives and resides, is said to live and reside in waterways and even in oceans. She is common among the Sawa, among other people of Cameroon, Senegambia, I believe Benin, and Togo. The Jingu is praised for its ability to heal the sick and bring good luck to its loyalists. Mami Wata can take on the form of a Jingu, and we often see her painted on or depicted on ceremonial shrines, temple spaces, in that Jangu form. In some communities, a Jangu held reverence as mediators between people and spirits. Similar Mangu folklores can be found in Western African nations, the Caribbean, and South America. And of course, the phoenix, probably one of the more ancient and most commonly recognizable features on the mother continent. It is a beautiful bird with a falcon or heron appearance, known for its everlasting status. It is a good mythical creature associated with the rising sun and enjoys a cozy relationship with the sun god. The phoenix exists as a single bird in 1,000 years or so span. And when it feels an approaching death, it assembles a memorial fire made of cinnamon and other sweet smelling materials and lets itself be consumed by it. At that point, the old phoenix dies and then a new one arises. And comparative to these animal stories, greetings to anyone I've missed in the chat, we also find very similar human animal hybrids that I'm going to talk about now. Just let me clear out my chat a little bit. Did I miss anything, y'all? Greetings. I see you, Jules. I still can't pronounce it. Yes, indeed. I still can't pronounce it. The Goddess Initiative, greetings to you. Yeah, they're crazy, and they are many more. The Infinite One lives animal hybrids that are not just mythological, but either have been manufactured by humans or have somehow been manufactured in nature that we could also talk about. The guys in this said, I mean, if they can't mix a grape and an apple and an amethyst with a citron in the lab, I'm sure if they can, yeah, I'm sure the possibilities are endless. Yeah, I'm sure they are. And I don't think it's new. I don't think it's new to our time period either. We certainly can, and we're going to talk about that a little bit, go back in time. Aunt Mary's niece, greetings, beloved. Hello, Hafas, greetings to you as well. We certainly are going to look at animal-human hybrids as well. Now, every part of the world has its own cultural folklore and mythology. And in every mythology, there are unique creatures throughout the globe who are only half human, as they hybridize with some animal to form a mystic creature, or because they can change their form or transform or metamorphosize. There are some outstanding mythological creatures formed by animals and humans, human beings sharing bodies. And let's see which animal human beings have shared their bodies with in mythology. Now, some of them I've already covered in the listing of animal hybrids, not animal hybrids, my apology, mythological hybrids in mythological animal hybrids in the motherland. And of course, I've shared some more modern, if you consider 1880 to the present, more modern animal hybrids, either created in the lab or under unique circumstances, again, with a bit of aid from from human beings. The growler bear, polar bears and brown bears, if I'm not mistaken, are seen frequently in the wild, but I'm not sure that they necessarily began being acknowledged as breeding in the wild until DNA technology caught up and was then able to determine that that was actually happening. Understand there are still species of animals and insects and other life forms on the planet on Earth that we still have never witnessed breeding or how they breed. So 10 hybridized humanoid types in mythology. So of course there's the very popular and all-consuming tales about shapeshifters. Another unique category of mythological humanoids is shapeshifters. And there are several examples. Encantado is a Brazilian folk creature, often described as shape-shifting snakes, but mostly refers to dolphins that have the ability to transform to humans. On the other hand, werewolves appear in European folklore as humans who can turn to wolves. There are also some other versions of werewolves, such as were-hyena, were-cat, um, and your Therians of today, of course, that believe that they are not necessarily werewolves, but believe that they possess the spirit, the heart, the mind, and in some cases live a double life as a human and a wolf. There are other animals that are elephant-headed in Hindu. Uh, Ganesh, the humanoid monkey deity, named Hanuman in Hinduism. Um, Fairies, which are humans with wings. There are uh, uh, what's I'm trying to pull from my memory now. Anasazi is a spider human hybrid. We look at Mesopotamia and Syria, we see bull human hybrids. Many mythological creatures are there which have a cross between a bull and a human. One version is the Assyrian Lamassu, who has a bull's body, human's head, and eagle's wings. You have the Minotaur among the Greek human body, head of a bull. You have Chio, the Chinese tyrant, is another example of a mythological creature with a similar structural depiction. Some Puranas, Puranas, describe Nandi, the gatekeeper in Hindu mythology, as a bull-faced creature with a human body. You have, in many mythologies from around the world, dogs and humans have formed humanoid mythological creatures. Some examples are the Chinese tree spirit called Panghou, Penghou, Panghou, with a human head and a dog's body. The dog-headed cynocephaly, Cynocephaly, the Japanese Tengu, and the Inuit Atlet, Adlet, Atlet, with a man's upper body and the lower part of a dog. And why, entertainers and storytellers and movie creators haven't expanded beyond, your classic werewolf and vampire ideology is just, I don't know, baffling to me. We have human lion hybrids. The king of the jungle has joined body with humans to form many astounding mythological creatures. And why we call the lion the king of the jungle, and the lion doesn't really live in the jungle, leopards are more likely to live in the jungle, is a digression in another story. The Sphinx is a mythological creature of Greek, Kemetic, Asian origin, with the head of a human and the body of a lion, occasionally depicted with wings. Manticore is the Persian version of the Sphinx, Manticore. Manticore is the Persian version of the Sphinx. The Lamassu, the Assyrian protective deity with the body of a lion, wings of an eagle, head of a human. Mahes, Mahes, Mahe, the Egyptian god of war, and Sekhmet, the Egyptian warrior goddess, were both animals with human body and lion's heads. Narasimha, 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 an avatar of the Hindu god Vishnu, is visualized with the human torso and lower body and the face and claws of a lion. You have horse hybrids. There are many humanoids in the mythologies from around the world which are half humans and half horses. Centaur are Greek mythological creatures with the body and legs of a horse and the head, torso, and arms of a human. The female counterpart is the Centaurid, which in Philippine mythology is a female counterpart with the body of a horse and the upper body proportions of a female, and is presented as an Angitai, Anggitai, Angitai. Another version of the Greek centaurs are the Ipotanes, Ipotanes, that also had the ears of a horse. The Greek Ichthyocentaurs, Ichthyocentaurs, have the upper body of a man, the tail of a fish, and the lower front of a horse. In Islam, the Islamic creature Al-Baruq, Al-Burak, Al-Baruq. The Hindu creature Hayagriva, Hayagrva, Hayagriva, the horse face of Chinese mythology, and the Tikbalang, Tikbalang, Tikbalang of the Philippine folklore, are all humanoids with the head of horses. Kinara is half human and half horse, according to the Buddhist and Hindu mythologies in India. Kinara, Kinnara, Kinara. We have, of course, snake human hybrids. Or we could easily begin with Dambala and certainly Oshimare. But snakes, generally viewed as a vicious creature, have been seen to share body with humans in many forms of mythological creatures. In Hindu mythology, for instance, Ketu, Ketu, is the descending lunar node and is depicted as an asura with the tail of a great snake. Echidna, 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 the mother of all monsters in Greek mythology, is a half nymph with a beautiful human face and is half serpent. Lamia, 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 the mistress of the Greek god Zeus, is described to have a serpent's tail below the waist, according to some accounts. In Chinese mythology, Nuwa, 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 and Fuxi, Fuxi, Fuxi are siblings, where Nuwa is the female counterpart and Fuxi is the male, and they have human-like bodies with serpentine tails, and Zulong, Zhulong, is a giant red solar deity with a human face and a snake body. Coquette, Kauket, Coquette, who is the female form of Kuk, Kuk, in Egyptian mythology, is a snake-headed woman. The Greek mythological creatures, Gorgons, Gorgons, are three sisters, Sethno, Stheno, Sethno, Euryale, Euryale, and Medusa. Most of us have only heard of Medusa, who are snake-haired humanoid monsters. Hatuabwari, Hatui, B like boy, Wari. Hatuabwari is a Melanesian dragon with a human head, a serpentine body, and the wings of a bat. The cobra-headed Meretseger, Meretseger, Meretseger from Egypt is another example. Of course, we know countless humanoid fish species, and the questions begin to arise. Why so many stories? Why so many creatures? Often that predate modern archaeological documentation. And when do we reintroduce extraterrestrial intervention as another possible reasoning for so many hybrid animals and humanoids in earlier history and culture? It would be too easy to, wave our hand and, these were primitive people who maybe didn't have science or maybe didn't always understand what they saw. But we also know that many of these cultures ate a much more diverse palette of food items than we even do today. Many of you couldn't even imagine killing and cutting up your own goat, your own chicken, your own pig, every other day or every 2 or 3 days, to feed yourselves. We have become so disconnected from nature and from where our food comes from. And certainly we are disconnected from nature, save for those of us who, are totally addicted to Nat Geo and other documentaries, who love to see, new animals, new plant life, new germ life, new explorations, in science. But societies around the world as a whole are greatly disconnected today from nature, from animal life, from plant life, and certainly can too easily make the assertion that our ancestors were somehow just ignorant or just had vivid imaginations, or just didn't know what they saw or what they were seeing, that somehow ended up in documented and recorded history, in some cases carved in stone. But yet we accept the assertion that they just somehow didn't know what they saw or what they were seeing, rather than the idea that we might just still be ignorant ourselves and disconnected, even from the scientific level, about early Earth life and early Earth civilizations. Certainly, the Hopi, as one powerful example, speak of the Earth being destroyed, I believe, at least 4 times, and the life going beneath ground to reemerge again, and then the recounting of what they found there. And no sooner than you are free to come out into the air again, into the sun again, into the oxygen again, you're certainly going to see plant life, animal life that would not have been describable. We are still finding animal life and plant life that is not describable, and it's completely new to us. So many mythological creatures are hybrids of human beings, fish, crabs, lobster, other forms of sea life. The most classic example, of course, is the mermen and mermaids who appear in cultures worldwide, from northeastern Asian, African cultures. The first appearance of this creature goes back to Assyrian mythology that depicts the goddess Atar Gatis. Atar Gatis, Atargatis, converting herself into a mermaid. In parentheses here, I have Derceto. Derceto. And I'm not sure if Derceto was another name for Artergatis, um, or more of a cultural nuance around the goddess. Um, but certainly, you all are welcome to do your homework, which is why I'm taking so much time to spell some of these words. Triton, Triton, the Greek god who is the messenger of the sea, Triton, is represented as a merman. Um, they have a human upper body and a scaly fish tail. Other mythological creatures of similar structure, Siyokoi, Siyokoy, Siyokoi. Serena, Sirena, and Dysabel, Dyesebel. Serena and Dysabel in Philippine mythology are considered Jingu. And again, in plural, Miengu, Menju, in the Sawa traditions in the Cameroon. The Dogon, a half human and a half fish, is the ancestor of their whole lineage, of their whole existence. The Mesopotamian god, a fertility god, appears in the Bible as well under the name Dogon, um, half fish, half human. So Dogon is known among the Dogon. Dogon is also known among the Mesopotamian, and Dogon shows up in the Bible as humanoid fish hybrids. Matsya, Matsya, is an avatar of a Hindu god Vishnu, depicted with a human torso and a fish rear. Avatea, Avatea, according to Cook Islands mythology, is a lunar deity and the father of gods and men, and has the right half of a human and the left half of a fish. And we've talked already about the the it's Ichthtyo, it Ichthyo centaurs in Greek mythology. Sometimes I pronounce it right, sometimes I don't. are a couple of sea gods with the torso of a human and the lower front of a horse and the tail of a fish. We have many mythological creatures who are bird human hybrids. Several mythological creatures that are half human and half bird. Harpies are female monsters in the Greek and Roman mythologies, depicted as birds with the faces of women. Lilith is a female demon existing in the Jewish mythology, are women with wings and bird legs. Sirens, the Greek Femme fatales are described variously as different combinations of birds and women, with the latter descriptions emphasizing more on their humanization. The Russian counterpart of a siren is the siren, Sirin, and the alkonost, Alkonost, as its counterpart. All three have unique singing abilities that can make the listener forget everything else, go into trances. In Russian folklore, Gamayan, Gamayun, appears as a prophetic bird with a woman's head and is very wise and knowledgeable. In the Southeast Asian mythology, Kinnaras, Kinnaras, the celestial musicians and eternal lovers, are creatures with a human and upper body and the body of a bird from waist downwards. Karora, Karura, is a Japanese Hindu Buddhist mythological creature with a human body and bird's head based on the Hindu mythological creatures Garuda, Garuda, which is a gigantic eagle with a human body. Egyptian gods with birds' heads are Mantu, Horus, Seker, and of course Ra. And we certainly cannot neglect in any way the Yoruba Iyami, that sacred and mystical power of women, often interpreted as to mean magic or witchcraft. And their chief avatar is a bird, or birds, if you will. And so these women and men who possess Iyami and the power of Iyami are also said to be able to take flight and communicate with birds and flying entities of various types. I'm so glad the Goddess Initiative. Yes, indeed. Peace and blessings, Neophyte Bokor. So glad you're here with us. I'm sure you have stories to tell. Thank you so much. And many thanks to Credo Matwa's books. Thank you, Gene Williams, for that. Let's see, Jules Birch. Homo sapiens, just like us physically, but I believe a much more advanced and widely utilized connection with their natural surroundings, physically, um, metaphysically. Okay, Agwe's consort is a mermaid. Yes, Lazarin, absolutely. Uh, Imani, welcome, beloved. Peace and blessings, Imani Sankofa. Thank you so much. I offer everyone at your leisure to go back and re-listen in the archives at youtube.com/VOODOOTYE, and also on my blog talk radio page, which is doing great today. blogtalkradio.com/the dash divine dash prince. All is a blessing. Uh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Aunt Mary's niece. Yeah, I should be on camera so y'all can see the pronunciation and the movement of my tongue and my lips and all of that. But I'm certainly spelling so that my erudite audience can take the time to go back and research. I'm also going to post here shortly documents and links and URL addresses to we're in tune, Neophyte Bokur, to some of the research that I had to do to sort of pull this together, because certainly these aren't all sort of listed in one place at one time. Otherwise, they'd be everywhere, and we'd all know about it. So it took a little exploratory research to pull some different articles and information together. I even found out about things that I was not aware of. The co-wolf or coyote and wolf. I didn't know coyotes and wolves uh, ever mixed at all. And coyotes and wolves only diverged around 200,000 years ago. And the two species are still able to mate and produce viable offspring known as Kai wolf, COYWOLF. Kai wolves share many of the characteristics of their two parents and are somewhere in between a Kai wolf and a wolf in size when fully grown. It's not known whether Kai wolves are animals that mate for life, like both of the mother species, the parent species do. I had never heard of a wolfin, a male false killer whale, and female bottlenose dolphin. And I've got pictures of these creatures too, by the way. I started to share them. I didn't quite get it together um, in time for the beginning of the show. Some of these creatures are just beyond words. And certainly would stroke dreams and imagination and creativity. Mrs. Jones, wondering if you know the language of the ancestors' native tongues that were made to wear the shield with the knives. Um, not offhand. Not offhand. I would have to look into that a little bit. Not offhand. But I appreciate the question, though it is, as you said, just a little bit off topic. But I certainly appreciate the question. And then of course there are just so many goat humanoid hybrids. Some of the mythological creatures with the upper body of a human and the rest of the body of a goat are Faun, Pan, Satyr, Silenus, and of course the devil. The Faun, Faun, is a rustic Roman god, goddess of the forest, and is associated with Pan, the Greek god of flocks and shepherds, as well as his companions, the Sitars or Satyrs, Satyrs, Silenus, Silenus, is the rustic god of the dance of the wine press and is older than Satyrs or Satars, Satyrs, primarily from the Greek mythology. Devil, the enemy of God and the personification of evil, and exists in many religions and cultures. All these creatures have a human torso, while waist downward, they are goat like. And on the other hand, according to Hindu culture, Daksha, Daksha, the noble king and son of Lord Brahma, got his replaced by a goat's head after he was beheaded. So we see goats in many forms of hybrid throughout the world. And as I mentioned earlier, we'd be remiss to not even discuss alien intervention. Baphomet, yes, Baphomet. For my listening audience, Baphomet, Baphomet. I believe Baphomet was Mesopotamian. Craig Burns, am I correct? Jules Birch just seen fish-human hybrid mummified remains in a small museum in Canada. Wow, that must be interesting. Wasn't allowed to dissect it, unfortunately. Okay. Yes, indeed. Um, yeah. So we can talk about human evolution, animal evolution, planetary change and evolution. But certainly this discussion must include some discussion on extraterrestrial intervention. And I've heard many stories about long before Yakub, extraterrestrials experimenting, seeking to create suitable likenesses and representations of themselves, much like the Bible, the magical book speculates that the gods created man in its own image, and that there were many mistakes. That same magical book suggests that Noah's flood, a great purpose was to help to alleviate some of those supposed hybrids, uh, mistakes, giants, um, other scary creatures that existed on the planet that were a detriment to the survival of humanity. I often, go into my imagination, just envision humans living amongst dinosaur populations. And we know now that certainly humans lived among certain dinosaur populations. They coexisted at a similar time in archaic history. But when we look at movies like Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, um, we get a much scarier idea of humans trying to exist with super ginormous, massive entities on the planet. Even forestry and plant life was not safe, from the massive size and weight and movement of dinosaurs, on the planet. The Goddess Initiative asks, was it Pan or Baphomet the Templars worshiped before they loaned the king money and he decided to kill and rob them instead? I believe it was Baphomet, but I'm willing to stand corrected. But I believe it was. Thank you, Queen Sheba. We certainly appreciate you and your consistent attendance and participation. Uh, Craig Burns says Pan was the god of hedonism. Yes, and he was taken to the battlefield. His war cry was panic. Absolutely. And Pan is still acknowledged here in New Orleans during Carnival. In fact, many deities and ancient gods, are being acknowledged and worshipped and honored and represented in Carnival every year. And just many of you just don't know it. And certainly Pan and hedonism are celebrated in the city of New Orleans in the French Quarter, particularly during Carnival, also during gay decadence to some degree, but certainly during Carnival, which we're in the full throes of, and certainly Mardi Gras. Technically, Mardi Gras Tuesday, Fat Tuesday, is the culmination of Carnival, is the last day of Carnival. Lundi Gras is the Monday, Mardi Gras is the Tuesday, that sort of the crown, the icing on the cake of the Carnival season. Let me go back to my chat here. Yeah, I like mind exercises, Queen of Sheba. I like to envision things, use my imagination, because I believe there's a thin veil between the spirit realm and our own imagination and our ability to transport ourselves in time and place to better understand, better empathize, better sympathize with other races, other animal life, plant life, the planet itself, other forms of even our own selves. And so we must be open like a little child, in our creative imagination to, you know, what is it like to be a plant? What is it like to be a tree? What is it like to be, another person, another culture, live in a different time period? And so, yeah, Jules Birch, there is some evidence of hominids coexisting with dinosaurs. It is more recent. Um, and when I say recent, I want to say in the last 10 years, maybe, in the archaeological record, finding, for example, dinosaur remains that fell into a cave or what do you all call it in the UK? A bog, and existing in the same layer of time with seafood remains, fish bones, shellfish, remains. In some archaeological digs inside caves, they're finding remains of hominid or not human, but hominid, Neanderthal and older. Um, that's what I meant, Neanderthal or older, not human species, coexisting. But we have this thing of wanting to dumb down Neanderthals who discovered clothing yourself long before the Adam and the Eve story, who discovered housing yourself, who discovered fire, and so it was just a typo of the tongue. I didn't mean human. I meant hominids, our ancestors who lived and exist and built and created um, uh, societies and civilizations long before quote unquote humans as we know it scientifically today. Um, Queen of Sheba says Pan was bad and good, she thinks. Craig Burns says the death of Pan is considered to be the birth of Jesus. Yeah, I'm familiar with that understanding as well. He was an androgynous spirit. I imagine so much of what I do prior to the actions. That creativity is a talent that is passed down. Photographic memory is as well. Yeah, and I believe that we held on to some of our skills and abilities from nature itself, from other animal life, from other plant life that, you know, managed to stay within uh, Earth molecular and cellular structures, DNA structures. And so we benefit from some of those leaps, if you will, in natural progression, leading up to hominids and subsequently humans. And we talk about primates and mammals and, lemurs, I believe is a part of that chain of events. And as we go back even further in our scientific understanding, yeah, I'll be glad to do that. There are documentaries everywhere, um, Jules, about Neanderthals and pre-human hominids, um, finding evidence of them coexisting with dinosaurs. The idea that there was, nothing on the planet but large animals and flying animals, and is not only partially true. And let's see. Queen Pan represents hedonism, but who can guess what God would enjoy? Yeah, and gods can also be cruel, says Jill Burns. I also believe that that sort of cruelty element has also a great deal to do with the weather and where a culture and a people evolve. When we think about Christianity, for example, and some of its sort of harsh depictions of God and his, lack of persons or respect, lack of respect for persons and are being as filthy rags and, all this sort of thing. But then when I look at societies and cultures much closer to the equator, much more temperate regions, much more abundant fruit year round, food sources year round, you don't get that same dogmatic, sort of darker, cruel demonstration of God or religion for that matter, as you do in the colder northern regions of the world. And so I think that also plays a role in how um, hominids and subsequently humans began to organize ourselves from the rest of our environment, subsequently leading to us sort of reorganizing ourselves separate from God and from divinity as something separate from us, created us but separate from us, created us and exists within us but somehow lives so way up high and above and each, yet sees and takes no sort of perspective on spirit and divinity, if you will, compared to more temperate regions. Now, Mexico is a temperate region. Um, so when we look at the Aztecs, the Mayans, whose gods seem to crave blood, human blood and sacrifice, there's always exceptions to the rule. And there's still missing pieces to the puzzle of humanity and stories and our attempting to understand or believe we understand what they understood, now so long after the events itself. So Queen Sheba, I think it was, yeah, using our minds, our third eye, our inner vision, our imagination, like a child, to envision worlds and realities beyond our own. And then someone else in the room said, if you can believe it, Queen Sheba, if you can imagine it, if you can see it, you can achieve it. And so it's exercising that muscle, just like we exercise the physical muscle, the intellectual muscle, that allows us those momentary glimpses into the past, the present, the future. And some get more proficient at time traveling, indeed, than others. I was greatly influenced over the weekend by one program that talked about wolf people and Therian culture or practices, and then by another uh, program that talked about the power of the mind and our ability to create and recreate a reality, even time travel, in our present state of being, not to disconnect from reality, but indeed to become much more intimately acquainted with that reality. Jules Birch also offer, if you aren't already, that you join me in social media. A lot of what I bring here often ends up or originates from my Facebook posts, my Twitter posts, um, primarily Facebook, Twitter, um, Tumblr. Yes, I use Tumblr. Yes, I use uh, Blogger. Um, and what am I forgetting? LinkedIn and LinkedIn. It's teaching is a little bit different with Instagram, which is picture and video driven, as opposed to allowing a whole lot of space and room for text and instruction. I feel much the same way about TikTok, though you can learn and present some valuable information on TikTok, but you got to chop it up and cut it down and reduce it to 3 minutes or less. Uh, I heard the sweet spot was 7 seconds, and how you can teach or share anything in 7 seconds is just beyond me. But I offer that you join me there because, again, often a lot of what I talk about, share, teach, um, even what I do when I'm not caught up in readings and consultations and providing services, I post those documentaries, those videos, those articles, often in Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Tumblr, and Blogger. First and foremost, those are the easiest to share, link share. Um, so yeah, I will be and have already begun sharing some of the information. Some of the information that I shared today, it cannot be located in the document. Or as I suggested earlier, it's not um, sort of when you get these conceptual articles, a lot of the Aboriginal, Indigenous, and African and context I have to add. Iyami, I had to add that Iyami is often not included, is often not understood outside of Ifa, Voodoo, Ifa Yoruba um, community. So in mythological creatures and animal human hybrids, I don't think I've ever seen a public listing that included Iyami and then some of the other um, Aboriginal, indigenous based spirits that I mentioned here. Has there ever been a half rooster, half human? Um, Not in my present memory. Certainly birds and birds of all type. I cannot recall right now one that involved a rooster and a human or humanoid. Yeah, it probably is Gene Williams and Shamafia. I listen. I don't claim to know everything. I don't claim to know everything. I know what I know, and I know how to research beyond what I know. And then, of course, there's that range of things that I have no knowledge of that, I'm always open. Um, Basilic, yeah, Neophyte Bokur, Basilisk. Thank you, Jules Birch. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm sure. Certainly, I think about them childhood cartoons, Porky Pig. What was uh, was he a rooster or was he a chicken? Now that I think about it, that was odd. Um, he was male. He looked like a big chicken, but he was really a rooster, wasn't he? From the cartoons? Help me out, y'all. What was his name? Foghorn? Yeah, Shamati, I have so many sci-fi ideas, horror ideas, reality ideas. I'm working my production team overtime right now with all the ideas that I have in the fire uh, and in the various stages of where they are in the fire in terms of their release date. Yeah, I got a lot going on. Uh, but yeah, my imagination certainly has gone in that direction as well. Yeah, that's what I thought. Foghorn Leghorn. Now, was he a chicken or a rooster? He would have had to been a rooster if he was a man, right? But I don't remember him having very rooster-like coloring. Now that I think about it, yeah, was he a big chicken or was he a rooster? You know, I have a rooster. We got many of them running around town, and they're full of color. Foghorn was awfully pale for a rooster. I don't think I've ever seen a white rooster. And even white chickens is a rarity and is a bit of a hybrid recreation by the chicken industry. Um, anyone, ask Shamafia, anyone that's got chickens will tell you they typically don't come out solid colors like that. Typically, not as they mature, and that baby stuff wears off. But help me, Shamafia. Did Foghorn have very many rooster-like qualities other than his antics? Greetings, Nebuchadnezzar Sahiri. Greetings, beloved. Your face and your name seems new to me, so welcome if I have not welcomed you before. Yes, indeed. Yeah, he was certainly in charge now. But in terms of his coloring, his look, were we greatly misled by what Foghorn looked like? Oh my goodness! And then there was Heckle and Jekyll, you know, human bird hybrids that have a ancient African root, by the way. And for those who live in Texas, I don't know what you all call them in Texas, but they're everywhere in Dallas, and they make such a noise that those birds, that Heckle and Jekyll, were um, appropriated from. Peacocks. Yeah, the more time I spend with it, the more we see that idea played around with in movies and theater and cartoons. Yeah, he was brown and white, but I don't know if I've ever really seen a plain brown and white rooster before. I'm sure they exist, but I've never seen. They typically have iridescent like coloring, especially around the head and the neck, and they tend to stick out a little bit. But yeah, he did have that red comb on his head, so yeah, he was definitely a rooster. Yeah, Tyson's Food and Sanderson Farms chickens are all white, and that's not natural. Um, Paul C has chickens. One of my godchildren, Samafi Rothschild, has chickens. I have chickens. My neighborhood has chickens. Yeah, that's got to be a hybrid, a human um, influenced hybrid. Uh, the chickens that just all white, and I'm not sure why or how in what way that affects the food or the flavor in any way, other than just reproducing within the dynamics of a, you know, that commercialized blood lineage, you know, over and over again. And some of the size of chicken wings and chicken breasts, bigger than a turkey breast. I can't eat that stuff. I don't know about y'all, but I can't eat that stuff. I just can't. I knew back in the 80s something was happening. The texture of all meats changed up on me in the late 80s. Nothing tastes the same to me. Beef didn't, chicken didn't, pork didn't, nothing. You know, I was still eating pork back then. Nothing, nothing stayed the same, and nothing certainly tasted the way it did at my family house in Mississippi growing up, or even in Chicago, which had, you know, historic food meat processing facilities right downtown. In fact, that's where Harpo Studios is, surrounded by pig and cow and meat butchering facilities, which have recently been gentrified into luxury lofts and condominiums. But that was a smelly, bloody area of the city that Oprah invested in, primarily for meat to feed the citizens of Chicago and the surrounding areas. And so for many people, that's as close as, they've been to where their food comes from in a long time, in a very long time. God's Initiative says she refuses to buy big chicken. Yeah, Craig Burns, Warner Brothers did a good job of humiliating animals. Okay? Yes, indeed. And yeah, humanizing and humiliating animals. You said humanizing. I had an alert that was covering up half of your message. I said humiliating. You said humanizing. Yeah, they did. But I would say, they did not always do animals a great service either. Certainly, Pepe Le Pew, another classic, another classic. Shamafia saw a 200-pound chicken in a video. Yeah, science and steroids are making dino birds. Yeah, and dino men and women. We see them in the gyms. We see them on Nip and Tuck. Yeah, the idea of humanizing animals, yeah, has been problematic for me for years. And I know animal lovers in the room. I'm not opposed to animal lovers. I think animal lovers keep animals in their natural habitat. I think the humanizing of animals is problematic, and it's a out for the destruction of natural habitat, which is killing off animals and animal species, all over the world. And so that guilt conscious, I think, kicks in, um, particularly in Western culture. We know that Asia and Africa and other regions of the world don't have the same humanizing relationship with animals, particularly cats and dogs, that Western folk do. But I think it's been problematic, the degree to which animals have been humanized, that they're taking on uh, human pathogens and human diseases, um, like diabetes and heart problems and cancers, and you know from living and eating and existing much as we have in the last 200 years, 400 years. So yeah, I think it can be a problem for sure. Humanizing animals is like animism in reverse. Let me process that. I can see where you might be coming from, but let me think about that before I officially respond. Animism in reverse, where we acknowledge the spirit and the power in all creativity. Animism, like the worship of cats in Kemet, or falcons, in ancient Egypt, or I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, magpies, though Heckle and Jekyll. Yeah, the magpies. They are some kind of loud in Dallas, baby. I fully understood the dynamics of that cartoon after living in Dallas for 11 months post Hurricane Katrina. Yeah, yeah. And that's just in nature, Shamafia. Uh, Heaven forbid what's taking place, in the labs around the world. Yeah, yeah. Fake food, fake people, fake body parts. We're literally remaking our reality, you know, and it mirrors an interest that's not always our best right now. Humanity has to continue to evolve and grow inwardly as gods and goddesses if we're ever going to realign, bring balance back to our physical realities here in the world. Yes, so much right now is focused on, what it looks like from the outside. How can it be masked, fixed, repaired, changed, covered up, veneers. Put some veneers on it. Let's not necessarily fix the teeth. Let's put some veneers on it and cover it, you know, temporarily, you know. So, yeah, we live in an interesting time. Yeah, us impressing ourselves on them. I got that, Craig. Yeah, absolutely. But, haven't we done that in the name of religion for generations now? We project onto God, football games and pageants, and you know, I just produced, an album full of just crazy words and language, but I want to thank God, and Jesus, yeah, we have impressed upon God and appropriated God and the spirit realm to mirror, uh, not necessarily our best interest, but what we want and what we envision as valuable and important in our present reality, as opposed to truly learning and grasping and relearning what is important, and then, you know, altering our reality to realign with that. So yeah, we live in a very unique time. So I most certainly appreciate each and every one of you. It's been a powerful, powerful 3 hours. If you ain't been here for 3 hours, then you missed the hour. Okay. Tasha will tell you, then you missed it. Okay. Since we're going to have shenanigans, hence the last show. I'm just going to do all that video edifying before the podcast. And so if you're not here at 11, um, then you're probably going to miss the video of the day. I'll probably reference it from time to time and talk about it. But Shamafia and Tasha and maybe Chef Bougie and Arisha and a few other people know that I've been showing, when I do show up to do the podcast, I've been airing documentaries, sometimes 2 hours before, 10 a.m., 11 a.m., leading up to the noon hour. Um, so you'll have to be there to see it. I will not be doing it on the podcast in quite the same way anymore. And let me be clear. The last show is up. Go back and relook at it. But they just whittled out maybe 2 minutes towards the end of that podcast. So if you were here, you saw it, you've got it, it's in your head. If you weren't here, you will never see it. It's gone, and you'll have to recapture it. I did type in and pronounce the names, the titles. So if you go back and watch the podcast, the previous show, you can find out exactly what we looked at, and then go find it independently on your own, in YouTube. I certainly appreciate all the resources available to us for our edification, to include YouTube. I don't have a problem with YouTube. Somebody got blocked yesterday for, I don't know, accusing us of being caught up in YouTube. This is YouTube. Okay. This is YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Okay. This is YouTube. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, animals are being humanized. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You said you wrote exactly what I said. Yeah. And they're taking human drugs. Dogs are taking Prozac. I mean, come on. Who would have thought it? Dogs are taking Prozac, are taking, you know, mental health medications created for human consumption. So before I digress onto a whole nother topic, the idea of the pharmaceutical industry, these money-making industries, and why they do, and we could start up a whole nother show just on that. So we'll cover that later and at another time. But I'm certainly grateful for each and every one of you for being present here with me. I certainly appreciate your love, your support. I'm available by email 24 hours a day, DivinePrince at houseofthedivineprince.com. It's not practical to answer the phone. It's not enough hours in the day to answer the phone. It's not enough hours in the day for me to answer all the questions people want me to answer on the phone. And if a live consultation by phone is any indication, if you don't document it, record it, write it down, they're not going to remember what I interrupted my consultation to answer the phone to tell you anyway. So please email me. You get it in writing, you can reread it, we get a clear understanding, we can move forward. Yes, things are better with PayPal. I certainly appreciate those who were concerned. Things are better with PayPal. They've made some adjustments. The new system is a little bit more in my favor. I did have someone who thought they were going to attempt some shenanigans. Not. And then I have a second person who believe they're going to try and pull some shenanigans. Miss Raven, you, your mother, and your sister, uh, y'all need to handle it. You need to handle it. The next time I say your name, I'm calling your last name. I might even post y'all's information. So y'all need to get it together. The times are changing. The government is changing the rules. PayPal is changing the rules. Divine Prince is also changing the rules. And so there won't be any shenanigans over time, services, um, resources, any of that moving forward. I certainly appreciate you all. Thank you so much for the love and support, the attendance. I look forward to your emails um, and your continued participation in the house. All is truly and indeed a blessing until we gather again in this self created, shared, sacred space. Peace and blessings. Ashe.